There is a moment, a specific, exact moment, when a doctor stops your heart from being counted as alive. It's not a feeling. It's not a light. It's a line on a screen going flat. And for most of history, that was the end of the story. The heart stops, you're gone. But in the last few years, scientists attached sensors to the brains of dying patients, not to save them, to watch what happened next. And in that final window after the heart stops, before the brain goes silent, they found something nobody expected. So what actually happens after you die? Not spiritually, not philosophically. What does the evidence say? Here's the first thing that will surprise you. Death is not one event. It's a sequence. And some parts of you are still alive, biologically, long after doctors call the time of death. Doctors actually recognize 3 different kinds of death, and they don't happen at the same time. The first is clinical death. Your heart stops. Blood stops moving. This is what a monitor sees. But here's what almost nobody knows. Clinical death is reversible. For several minutes, you can be brought back. The current record for a confirmed recovery after clinical death is over 3 hours in cold water. 3 hours with no heartbeat. So if the heart stopping isn't really the end, then what is? That's the second kind, brain death. This is the one that's actually permanent. No electrical activity, no recovery. And the third cellular death is the slowest of all. Some cells in your body can survive for hours after everything else has stopped. In fact, skin cells have been kept alive and growing in labs for days after a person's death. Your body doesn't get the memo all at once. But here's where it gets strange. Because between clinical death and brain death, there's a window, a gap. And inside that gap, in 2013, scientists found something they still can't fully explain. A team at the University of Michigan, led by neuroscientist Jimo Borjigan, was recording brain activity in animals as their heart stopped. They expected the brain activity to fade out slowly, like a radio losing signal. That's not what happened. Within seconds of the heart stopping, brain activity didn't fade. It spiked dramatically higher than during normal waking life. So right when the body is dying, the brain, for a few seconds, becomes more active than it's ever been. In 2023, the same team confirmed this in humans recording EEGs from patients as life support was withdrawn. In some, the exact same surge appeared. The specific brain waves involved, called gamma waves, are the same ones linked to conscious awareness, memory recall, and dreaming, which raises the question nobody can fully answer yet. Is the dying brain simply shutting down chaotically? Or is it doing something one last time? Now here's where the science gets even harder to explain, because some people who went through this window came back, and they remembered things. In 2008, cardiologist Sam Parnia launched a study called AWARE across multiple hospitals to test something specific. They placed images on high shelves in resuscitation rooms, images only visible from near the ceiling. Images no patient could have seen from the bed. If patients later described those images accurately, it would suggest awareness during a time when the brain was supposed to be offline. Out of thousands of cardiac arrest cases studied, a small number of patients reported detailed, verifiable awareness, including one man who accurately described the actions and conversations of the medical team resuscitating him. That doesn't prove consciousness continues after death. But it does mean the line between aware and not aware is much blurrier than we assumed. So what do people actually describe from this window? The reports are strikingly consistent across cultures that have never had contact with each other. A sense of leaving the body, a tunnel, a bright light, a feeling of calm replacing fear. These show up again and again in reports from every continent, which raises an obvious question. Is this a glimpse of something beyond, or is it something your own brain is doing to you? There's a strong physical explanation. As oxygen drops, the visual cortex, the part of your brain handling peripheral vision, is affected first. That alone can produce the exact tunnel vision effect. People describe a physical narrowing of sight, not a spiritual passage. As for the calm, the peace, some researchers, including Rick Strassman, have proposed that the brain may release its own natural DMT-like compounds in these final moments. It's still a hypothesis, not a proven fact, but it would explain why fear so often turns into calm in these final reports. So the tunnel might be your eyes. The calm might be your own chemistry. But here's the part that's harder to explain away. In 2020, researchers at the University of British Columbia asked a simple but very hard question. When everything else has shut down, can a dying person still hear you? Neuroscientist Elizabeth Blunden and her team played specific tones to unresponsive, dying hospice patients while monitoring their brain activity. Even in patients who could no longer respond to anything else, no touch, no voice, no movement, their brains still reacted to sound, right up until the final hours. which means hearing may be the very last sense to go. The old advice to keep talking to someone who is dying, it may not be just comfort, it may be real. So that's the mind. But what about the body itself once this whole process finishes? Within minutes, cells stop receiving oxygen and begin a process called autolysis. They essentially start digesting themselves from the inside. One popular myth says hair and nails keep growing after death. They don't. The skin simply dehydrates and pulls back, making them appear longer. Forensic scientists actually use the body's changes like a clock, a field called forensic taphonomy, to estimate time of death with real precision. Every stage, from the first minutes to months later, is chemically predictable. Death, biologically, is not chaos. It's a process with its own internal logic. So let's go back to that flat line on the monitor. Is it really the end? What the evidence actually shows is that death isn't a switch. It's a slow fade, with one strange, bright flicker right in the middle of it. Your heart can stop, and you can still come back. Your brain can go quiet, and some part of you may still be listening. Even your body keeps working, cell by cell, long after you're gone. Nobody knows exactly what, if anything, is experienced in that final surge. That's still an open question, and it might stay that way for a long time. But maybe that's not a frightening thing. Maybe it just means the story isn't as simple, or as sudden, as a line going flat. So does knowing this make death feel less frightening to you, or more? And if you had that final surge of brain activity, what do you think you'd want it to hold? If this made you think, hit like and subscribe. Bob Wonders has a lot more questions to ask.